Kolkata, a city steeped in culture and heritage, is set to get a changed skyline forever. A residential project aiming to take luxury to a new level is under construction. The jewel in this project's crown is its skybridge. Pushing the limits with engineering will be its 6,500-ton structure, suspended between two towers, carrying an infinity swimming pool, a mini golf course, a jogging track and more, at the height of 100 meters.
A building like this, if it was done in a different climatic situation where we didn't have to deal with the challenges of seismicity, the challenges of high wind, the structure would look different.
This is the story of this megastructure. A 600-ton steel structure is being lifted 100 meters above ground. A first for the city of Kolkata in India. The structure is a part of the sky bridge that will become part of a residential project in Kolkata called Atmosphere. Once completed, this steel structure of the sky bridge will weigh around 2,340 tons. The team is busy with the preparations. Everybody is taking extra precautions because even a small miscalculation could be dangerous and could cost precious time. This entire liftoff is going to be a 2-day process.
So the first thing that we're doing today is to take the strain in the strand jacks and gradually take more strain until we're able to release the structure from the temporary supports at the edges. Once that has slightly happened, we'll slightly lift it further until gradually we're able to take the central supports out, and when that comes off, then the whole structure will lift on its own.
Not as easy as it sounds. The center of gravity of the structure or a miscalculation of the wind speed could turn disastrous, considering the heavy weight of the structure. The man behind this ambitious project is Rahul Saraf, MD of Forum, a leading developer that has also built India's first integrated mall in Kolkata. Rahul Saraf loves the city and says this time he wanted to offer something extraordinary, not just to his customers, but also to the city of Kolkata.
Well, I'm a Calcutta boy. I'm born here. I've started my real estate here. It's a very different feeling to give back to the city where you're born, where you live. And given a choice, I've always wanted to do something new in the city, something that the city feels proud of, something that I feel proud giving back to the city.
This luxury apartment project is designed to give residents the heady feeling of living in the clouds. The idea is to combine the amenities of residential complexes with the luxury of individual houses. So, there will be 80 villa-like apartments stacked on top of each other. The unique aspect of the project, though, is its sky bridge nestled between the two towers. The initial design of the project had a rather simple sky bridge sitting on top of the two towers. But architects Pen Beng and Belinda were not satisfied with the designs. They were looking for something more unique that could define luxury.
We were looking also for some like a meaningful connection with Kolkata, and we had found that sometimes the clouds descend, to very low levels in the wetlands and in this area of Calcutta. And we thought that, it would be almost magical if we could, just pick a piece of the cloud and let it rest gently between the two buildings.
Hence, they conceptualized a cloud-like structure that will gently rest on two towers. The structure begins on the inner portion of both towers at the 30th floor and goes up to the 36th floor. It is divided into 3 levels. The lowest level will house most of the indoor amenities, while the middle and top levels consist of a swimming pool, lounge area, gymnasium, jogging track, and a space for other recreational activities. The top level is open to the sky.
There's a lot of ramps and seamless hillocks, and it's actually a smooth transition. So you're moving, you're on the pool deck, or you're just flowing down, and then you're inside into the spa area or into the lounge. So that's how we saw that a really soft movement and circulation within that space as well.
Because of its design as a cloud resting lightly between the two towers, the sky bridge is named Dea. Despite its design, this cloud is no lightweight. While Arc Studio had done a fine job of designing the project, launching it was the next challenge.
So now that the vision was all put together and largely the project had been designed, is when it struck us, how on earth are we going to build this in Calcutta? And we realized we need to go out and look for people we can partner with who can bring in that global expertise, bring in that knowledge base into Calcutta and partner with us in building this cloud.
That's where award-winning structural designer Hussein Razai stepped in. He took up the task to make this project a reality.
The structure of the atmosphere has 4 distinctly different components, which when put together create the whole of the atmosphere structure. The sky bridge is one that is very pronounced. It is seen and it is highly visible. But there are 3 other aspects of this project which when put together with the sky bridge make this whole thing a rather complex and rather sophisticated structure.
His biggest challenge was to put the amenities inside the sky bridge, hollowing out the lower half and then put the additional amenities on the top. The sky bridge had to be strong enough to hold all amenities as well as light enough to carry its own weight.
The actual structure of the sky bridge comprises 2 very simple steel trusses. They're long. They're about 80 meters long, but they're relatively simple and straightforward. It's a span between the 2 supports. Then there are cross trusses which form the width of the sky bridge, plus the arches and other components which, when put together, form a robust and safe structure for the bridge.
So, the construction had started and the designs were turning into reality. But they still had miles to go. A lot of hopes and plans of the project hinged on this 600-ton structure being lifted 100 meters above the ground. An ambitious project in Kolkata, where every resident could truly say that they are living in the clouds. How did the atmosphere projects there or the Cloud Sky Bridge become a reality? Though the Sky Bridge was the most prominent aspect of the construction, what it was going to rest on also had to be robust enough to carry its weight. The towers also needed a strong base to hold the sky bridge in any kind of weather. The builders decided to increase the thickness of the walls for this purpose.
If you see the tower structure, we have constructed in such a way we have to encounter the load of 6,500 metric ton of sky bridge loads. So that's why the design has been made in such a way that the entire periphery wall of the tower structure has been made into a RCC wall. It starts at 700 millimeter at lower levels to 400 millimeter to 300 millimeter at the top level.
While the towers were getting built, it was time to build the sky bridge. The Malaysian company Ever Sendai, that has been at the forefront of building sky bridges and steel structures at extreme heights, like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai and Petronas Tower 2 in Malaysia, was roped in to build the sky bridge structure. Fabrication of the central steel structure of the sky bridge took place at Ever Sendai's Trichy factory in Tamil Nadu, 2,000 kilometers away from the project site. After being built in Trichy, Ever Sendai painstakingly assembled the entire 600-ton sky bridge structure on site in Kolkata. It was assembled on the ground and would then be joined to the supporting structures that were simultaneously being constructed on the inner areas of the two towers. Once welded together, the complete structure would make up the Daya. A project of this scale and ambition has to show adequate respect to the forces of nature, especially because Kolkata faces moderate risk of earthquakes and high risk of cyclones. Though the towers themselves were built to be earthquake resistant, in case of a major earthquake, the movement of the towers would be restricted because of the sky bridge. This could prove disastrous. Also, heavy wind pressure at the sky bridge could put tremendous stress on the towers with its weight. To solve this issue, Web Structure used a technique which is prevalent worldwide, the earthquake isolation bearing system.
The main effect of it in terms of the structure is that when earthquakes happen and we get a reasonable degree of that in Kolkata, the structure below moves, but the bearings allow that movement to happen without the sky bridge moving. On the other hand, when you get these high wind pressures on the structure of the sky bridge, instead of these being transferred into the towers and wanting to bend the towers, the bearings allow that movement to happen and relieve the towers from that fairly high lateral load.
Two such isolation bearings are placed on the inner portion of the towers at level 29. Bearing girders support these isolation bearings. Now that the towers and the sky bridge were both ready, the most critical aspect was the liftoff. On the first day of the liftoff, the 600-ton structure was released from its temporary support, and it was left hanging through the night with the help of strand jacks. The necessary checks and deflections were monitored before the 10-hour-long lifting process on the following morning.
I remember I had moved into the ITC hotel next door along with all the consultants and everybody the previous night. And we left for the site at about 4:30 in the morning. 5 o'clock, 5:15 was supposed to be the liftoff.
The wind could have added obstacles in the lifting process. Heavy wind would have swayed the structure and damaged it. To protect the structure from sudden wind conditions, wind arresters were placed on the towers.
After about 9 hours now, we're about 10 meters, 12 meters away, another hour, hour and a half to get the structure up to the top.
Once the lifting was done, it was time to connect the sky bridge with the towers. Almost 25 metric tons of welding rods have been used in the Dea structure. If laid out in a straight line, these rods would stretch to over 28 kilometers. 75,000 plus high-strength friction bolts have been used in this project with a special mechanism of torque tightening. With the towers at atmosphere complete and the structure of the sky bridge in its final position, the work on Dea could finally begin. The Dea was visualized as a cloud sitting on top of two towers. Hence, it had to look and feel like one. The city of Kolkata is redefining its skyline. A new luxury residential project carrying a massive sky bridge weighing 6,500 tons is under construction on the eastern side of the city. This sky bridge, with a volume of a Boeing 747, is being transformed to look as light as a cloud. The sky bridge holds all the usual club amenities of a condominium project. The heaviest of these is the swimming pool right in the center on the 34th floor. This floor also holds two raised decks for other recreational activities. 2 levels down on the 32nd floor are the rest of the facilities, like the lounge, squash court, mini theatre and a spa, all adding considerably to the weight.
So the structure as a mass is 6,500 tonne once completed. That's with water, landscaping, all ID finishes. And then you have a live load that will be placed on top of that on completion. The steel that goes into it exceeds 2,300 tonne alone. That's equivalent to an army frigate ship in weight.
And this large mass does need to defy gravity. If it doesn't hold on its own, then the entire structure would crumble down with its own weight.
You have to have a pre-cambered curve because your steel can't stay straight. It's like having a long ladder and putting all the weight in the middle and not expecting it to have a bow. So it will always bow. So you preempt the bow by putting a camber, allowing the centre to then come down to a zero level. It will never achieve the full zero level because there's always contingency built into the engineering, because you need that for live loads because the structure will always bounce. You've also got to have a camber to allow for the live loads, to allow for the weather conditions. This whole structure is a moving structure. It will never be still. It will always be twisting.
The first step was to envelop the Dea from all the sides except the top with a mesh-like aluminium facade. It is suspended on the outside of the structural steel and connected back to it using studs. It gives a seamless look to the whole sky bridge by covering the welded steel structure. The openings in the facade are covered either by aluminium panels or glass. The aluminium panels are perforated to allow the wind to pass through them, helping reduce wind pressure on the structure and also ventilating the non-air conditioned belly of the Dea. Every opening in the structure has a unique shape, so the aluminium panels had to be custom fabricated for each opening. Putting them into the openings was no easy task. They are fixed onto the mesh from the outside, which meant stepping out on a temporary platform hanging 100 meters above the ground. Not a job for the faint-hearted. But there was yet another challenge to be overcome. Making sure that atmosphere looks clean and green. There is extensive landscaping in the project. not just in the apartments but also on the sky bridge. And so, like the central structure of the bridge itself, 72 fully grown trees were lifted by cranes from the ground and replanted on the daya. At 100 meters, the wind always has to be factored in. If these big trees were to get uprooted, it could be very dangerous.
So we've had to put down large anchors which bolt down to the slab. Below the ground we have large chains and nets below the soil that cover the root balls of all the trees. We then have a strong rope system that will then go up and hold the tree in position higher up on the mast. That ensures that there's no uplift and that the wind itself won't carry one of our trees off the structure. And we'll also maintain its straightness.
Designed and executed by top talent from around the world, this ambitious project aims at changing Kolkata's image and getting it recognized for modern engineering and architecture.
I think a lot of people will draw inspiration from this. And I'm hoping that a lot more projects will be conceived paying more attention to its architecture and to the community spaces that you create for the people living within that space. How beautiful our city will look is actually in the hands of us developers. If we make beautiful looking buildings, then our cities become happier places to live.
Once completed, this project will be an engineering marvel on its own. It is sure to add a new chapter to the city with its rich history of architecture.